Hi, I'm Leighann Neilson. I'm an Associate Professor of Marketing at the Sprott School of Business. I've been using community-supported learning exercises in my classes since I came to Carleton about 5 years ago. I use them in my second, third, and fourth year courses, changing the length of the assignment depending on the level of the class. So in my second year classes, I would use shorter assignments, probably 2 to 3 weeks, and most often they're optional so that students can choose to work with a small business or a local not-for-profit. In my third year classes, the assignment is again a group project, but extending probably about half the length of the class. And most recently, I've done a full semester-long project in my fourth year class with the people from Beechwood Cemetery. And I was really excited about the opportunity to work with Beechwood because they already have a relationship with Carleton, and so we were able to meet and talk about the kinds of issues that Beechwood was facing and come up with 3 or 4 different projects that we thought our students could help them with. And from our students' point of view, it was a chance, first of all, to be in a beautiful environment like it is here at Beechwood, but also to work with people who I felt really cared about the kind of work that they did and provided a very high quality service. So it gave our students a chance to learn from the best, so to speak. It's a little different to be working with a not-for-profit cemetery, and I had to keep that in mind because certainly the age of our students, there would be some of them who may have encountered this industry before. It's not unusual for a grandparent to pass away during a student's undergraduate program, but for most of our students, they would not have encountered the funeral industry or the cemetery industry, and it would seem very different for them. So I had to prepare for that in advance, using an assignment that would sensitize them to the issues that consumers face, but also that marketers face, because the course really is focused on not-for-profit marketing. So we wanted to look at both sides. The other thing I had to keep in mind is that when you're dealing with death-related rituals or customs, there can be some tricky issues to deal with both culturally and in terms of people's religious beliefs. So I made sure on the very first day of class, when we typically go through the course outline, to also talk about what this assignment would be and how involved the students would have to get, what issues they might face. So there were some students for whom this was just too culturally sensitive, and they actually did withdraw from the course. And I think it's important to deal with that, especially because this class runs in the winter semester of their fourth year. And they need the credit to be able to graduate, so they had to be given that option early on in the semester to find another credit. For some other students, it actually was a chance to explore their cultural beliefs and to learn a little bit more about their religious beliefs. We had one young woman in the class who actually had to call her mom and say, Mom, what is it that we believe? Can you explain this to me? We had some exchange students, so they had to email home and ask questions about things like family traditions and do we actually have a family burial plot and how did you and Dad make these decisions and those kinds of things. So quite a few parents actually got involved in the class assignment as well. I think overall for the students it was a wonderful experience to gain some real world experience. They were dealing with a real live customer who had legitimate issues, and they were all marketing issues, and they were doing the research and making recommendations. It was a large class, 53 students, so what was important to think about there was that the projects would scale. And we had agreed before the semester with Beechwood on 4 different topics we would look at. So that worked out quite well because instead of Beechwood only having 1 project on each topic, they had 3 or 4 different groups presenting and writing reports, and they could pull from those different projects ideas and mix and match and look at different suggested solutions. So it worked out quite well for Beechwood. It also worked out extremely well for the students because Beechwood was very gracious in terms of having at least 2, if not 3, senior management people plus a member of the board of directors also attended the in-class presentations. So the students got real feedback, not just feedback from the professor and the teaching assistant, but from the client as they were presenting. And I think it's a bit scary because their grade, it does depend on how well they do, but in another way it's a very protected environment because it's not their mortgage, it's not their job that's depending on this. They learned a lot. Some of the learning was fairly straightforward. Things like the client isn't always available to meet when you'd like them to meet. But they also learned how to produce a very professional report. And for some of the students, I think it's not exaggerating to say that it was life-altering. One pair of students came up with an idea for how they would like to market Beechwood, something they had never worked on before. So they had to do a lot of background research, and they took it from concept to actual finished product. And that's really looking at the whole marketing process. Their classmates were astonished. I was astonished at what they were able to accomplish. The client was quite pleased with what they did. And I think for those students, it was the only A+ either one of them ever got in their undergraduate program, but they worked for it. We had other students in the class who simply met each other, realized they had common interests, and after the class was over, continued to meet to encourage each other as they established their own entrepreneurial ventures. So I think in terms of looking at it beyond the classroom, it also had an impact. To be realistic, not all the students took advantage of the opportunity the same way. Some said on the evaluation that they would have preferred a traditional paper-based case study. And I think as the professor, you have to be willing to realize that's going to happen. Certainly, I would have liked 100% of the students to grab onto it, but it's not always possible. Sometimes people have other objectives in mind for themselves. Overall, would I do it again? I certainly would. Students who took the course the semester that we did the project with Beechwood have been in touch with me since, telling me what a difference it made to them and their careers, and really encouraging me to go back to teaching the course that way. So in terms of using community-supported learning in our teaching, it does require a little extra work, but it's extremely satisfying, and I think it made the course, not to be too frivolous, but it made the course fun for the students and for myself.